Morning, fellas on YouTube. This is the last video from me prior to me using this snowblower for this rebuild on this RADTECH, Kubota, Honda, Walker, John Deere, whoever paints them a different color. Repair modification video I'm doing this series. All right, so what you're watching right here is I'm taking out some warpage out of the scraper bar for the snowblower. So I cut out the old one. It was pretty thin sheet metal, and I made a new one. It's a piece of angle iron welded to a flat bar, and it's got some hard facing on it. And hard facing is a much harder material that you weld on top of other material, and it wears much longer and is much more resilient than the base metal. Now, it's pretty brittle stuff, so you need to butter it, if you will. You need to do a buttering layer between the base metal and the actual hard facing. So you can't really see it. I don't really want to take this out of my setup here. But what I did was buttered it with some Studi, I think it's called LH18 rod there, and I used some flux core MIG wire. I actually used that with gas, called 965G. And that was what I used to do the hard facing pattern on the back. Now, because of all that welding, it caused quite a bit of warpage. So I'm putting a couple of, again, strategic, very hot spray transfer welds on this side of it. And what you're seeing there is the dial indicator. It's continuing to move. Like, I stopped welding about a minute ago, and we've already moved 100 thousandths of an inch down, and the goal is to take out the big bow that I put in this thing from doing the hard facing. And right out of the gate, we are much straighter now than we were before. So I'll deem that successful. So I'll clean up those welds, and we'll move along to the next part of the project. So the next part of the project is doing a little bit more cutting here with a plasma torch. I've cut out the bottom piece, and that's all boxed in, so it's a great place for corrosion to happen, unless you fill it full of like a fluid film or a corrosion inhibitor. So what we're going to do is we're going to weld that in, and then I'm going to make a couple brackets. I'm going to do some casters at the back to take the weight off the hitch and you know, the chassis of the snowblower itself. It's still moving. It's been like, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and we have literally moved over 100 thousandths of an inch. So if you got problems with warping, get yourself a cheap dial indicator. And when I mean cheap, not an Mitutoyo one, but you can get these things on Amazon. I mean, dirt cheap compared to what a Mitutoyo or a Starrett would cost you with a Noga holder, and save the good stuff for your machine tools. But I was going to give this away, but now I'm going to keep it because it's excellent for, you know, putting on something. If I get a little bit of weld spatter on it, that's no big deal. I didn't have a big investment into it. So keep your old indicators and holders, your cheap stuff, because it's great for this. Same with your cheap import V blocks that aren't very accurate. All right, what do we talk about next here? There's a drive shaft assembly. Anybody doing this kind of modification work, that's Weasler 6 series parts. You can go on Paul B Parts, I think it's .com, and you can order that stuff. And all this super light duty, you know, Kubota BX, GF 1800, you know, John Deere stuff, it's all Weasler 6 series. There's the a Kubota part I paid quite a bit of money for. But if you want to save some coin, just go right to the manufacturer. Weasler 6 series. That's a medium coffee with 2 cream. That's what I drink. Never mind. All right, over to this stuff right here. I did some modifications on the bearing holders. I put a grease zerk in because these were all sealed up, and there's no way to service the bearings, even though they are serviceable bearings. So I put that in there, and I had to do a little bit of a modification. I had to put a set screw in the bottom of the hole and drill a tiny hole through the set screw, because the back side of the hole was too big and grease just oozed out the front. It didn't actually get into the bearing. So that was a little bit of a tricky mod to do, and I banged up my nice Greenfield quarter 28 tap doing it. So I have a vanadium one on the way. Here's the sprockets for the gear reduction in the snowblower. That's the original Honda one for the Honda PTO. I can't remember what kind of speed it runs at, but it's a 32 tooth sprocket down from a 12 tooth on the the gear change, or the gearbox rather. And we're down to a 32 sprocket now, so that should give me about 1,000 RPM in the impeller. So that right there should produce quite a bit of performance increase. And these are just off-the-shelf parts from Princess Auto. I didn't make a new bushing because that part's only $10. But I did TIG weld it in here, and I did face off the back to buy myself a little bit more room. I do have a longer shaft on the back of the impeller right now, so that clearance issue won't be a factor for me. I TIG welded that in with 309 stainless filler rod, and hashtag no pulse. I like TIG welding. It's nice and clean and pretty. And only up until about 3-4 months ago, I only owned a TIG welder, which also did stick work. But I do appreciate not a lot of fumes and sparks and spatter. But sometimes you just got to get things done fast, and that's where the MIG welder has come in. That noise you're hearing is my PAPR helmet. I got a Savage A40, and it's working pretty good. Just a little bit of a note: just don't plasma cut with it. Just open the doors, because the filters they jam up real quick, and you're not supposed to clean these filters. I think you're just supposed to replace them. So there we are. We took out 100 thousandths of an inch of warpage just by 4 strategic welds, and it looks like we're pretty close to flat. We'll probably have a little bit of bow in it, going across the plate, not along the plate, if you get my drift. So that's not as big of a deal. All right, guys, last video for me before I actually use this thing. And you can see my hard facing pattern right there. Just a V pattern, just a sacrificial hard pattern there that I can build up again. I got lots of hard facing to do. I have to do my wood chipper anvil on the Bandit 65. I have to do my slip scoop bucket, which is getting a lot of use. And I got a couple other items that need hard facing. All right, guys, last video for me until I use this thing. But this is where we're at. We're painted. We're, for the most part, assembled. Last little modification to do, plus the wheels. Should have this thing done today. I hope to use it today. Gonna get 15 centimeters of snow. So let's hope for a good opportunity to try this thing out. All right, guys, thanks for watching.